Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stolberger. Welcome to our KFIR Middle East update. It's a couple days late, as you know. This is going to be looking back over the last week. Today is July 26th. And so normally we send it out on Mondays, but we've been up in Canada visiting close friends of ours. So let's jump in right away. And just a reminder, make sure that you get the PDF PowerPoint. Covers much more than we have time for here, and there's photos as well. So, well, we kind of knew it was going to happen, but the judicial reform has passed. We'll get to more details in a moment with that, but from the outside, it really does appear that Israel is fractured and divided. And so what is going to happen? That's the big question. And at the end of this, a good friend of ours, Amir Tsarfati, just sent something out, and I added it as a last minute thing for this update. But first of all, Bibi Netanyahu, in light of all that's taken place, quotes, "As in every democratic country, we have disagreements. This is natural." And he goes on to say, "But I always remember one thing. We are one people with one fate, and we have no other country. We are brothers." And to be honest with you, on my very first trip to Israel, the one thing, Paul writes to the Romans that we need to be careful because we're the wild olive shoot that's been grafted in, and we need to live a life that would cause Israel to be jealous. When I experienced Israel for my very first time, the unity of the people caused me to be jealous. I was on an IDF base with young kids, and I realized as I would hear them talk, if we don't stand together, we don't exist. Truth. Well, in light of what's taken place, Israel's enemies, primarily Iran and all the networks that they sponsor, it seems as if they've convened over this reform crisis and decided against any kind of direct interference. That decision probably stems from what Iran and its terror groups say will, in a sense, give Bibi Netanyahu a chance to shift the blame. When in doubt, you want to unify the country, what do? Declare war, right? And so they have backed off, and we don't know for how long, because there are those that say this is the perfect time for Hezbollah to strike, a multi-front war, or whatever. But at this recording, it seems that they're hitting the pause button to wait and see. The White House, of course, Joe Biden's, what can I say? His comment is, quote, "It's unfortunate that the Israeli government passed this judicial reform bill without consensus. Biden would be better served to keep his opinions to himself and allow Israel to be Israel." And then lastly, we know that this is taking its toll on Netanyahu. We know he was hospitalized last week and then released and then brought back in, undergoing a procedure for the implementation of a heart monitor, a pacemaker sort of thing. So that's our news bites for the week. Let's jump into the articles that we have. And again, there's an article on the judicial reform. Quote, "Today we carried out a necessary democratic step, one designed to restore a measure of balance between the authorities." And that's what we had for 50 some odd years. "In no way is the carrying out of this going to destroy our democracy. In fact, it's the essence of our democracy. And the coalition has been working hard to work together with the opposition. And Netanyahu says, I say this with regret, because when the bill was voted upon, it was 64-0, but that's only because the opposition walked out before the vote. And so Netanyahu says that none of our compromise proposals were accepted, not even close. And so we're going to have to wait and see the negotiations behind the scene and how things calm, or will they calm, in Israel. And boy, do I hope they do, because in a couple weeks I'll be there, and kind of on a solo mission. A friend for a short time in the beginning will be there, but it's personal for me. I'm looking at the rail lines and the airport and things like that. So anyhow, but more on that next week. Best thing I saw, and this gives hope. Bibi says, dear citizens of Israel, I would like to begin with the most moving scenes that I have witnessed in the last 24 hours. Last night, masses of Israelis came to demonstrate in favor of the reform, and thousands came out to demonstrate against the reform. On one side of the escalator in Jerusalem train station stood the supporters, and in the opposite direction, the opponents. But as they ascended and descended, the scene took place. Everybody's holding flags, but despite differences, someone reached a hand out, shook hands, and then it was contagious. All the way up and down, a sign, a hopeful sign of being united. Again, unfortunately, we go from the positive back to Biden. And Biden has threatened Bibi. Again, even with Herzog here, his quote is, please stop now, or you're going to break something with Israel's democracy, and this is the most important thing, and your relationship with America's democracy, and you may never be able to get it back. A veiled threat of know your role, Bibi, stay in your lane and listen to us. Not our responsibility. The IDF is concerned over the readiness if there were an attack, and primarily the concern is for the Israeli Air Force. Again, over 1,000 reservists, Air Force reservists, and keep in mind the strength of Israel is their control of the air. And so there's hundreds of pilots and drone operators and air traffic controllers that are calling on others in the IDF reservists to strike. And so this is something that needs to be negotiated. The government is attempting to reach broad agreements in order to keep these reservists from suspending their service. And again, this is what we're talking about. There are some positive things, but the nation is fractured at this time. And where will that healing balm come? One of the reasons you need to make sure you have that PDF PowerPoint is because of the photos. And we've talked about Hezbollah in the past couple weeks and their incursion into Israel, crossing the blue line, sort of threatening Israel, stealing cameras from the security fences. It's really saber-rattling, but this picture here with the title, "It Could Have Been Worse," this is Israel's top generals, the upper echelon, that were filmed on the border by Hezbollah. And as you can see, It could have been, if they're able to film this, it's hard not to imagine snipers not having the ability to have done something far worse. And so again, we're keeping our eyes on what's transpiring at this time. A couple things, and then we look at the Palestinian Authority, which is supposed to be the friend, the peace partner in the midst of it. And it's summer camp time there. And you have to understand that the Palestinian Authority is an unfaithful partner. The officials regularly go on Arabic television channels and they glorify terrorism against Israel, and they call for the end of Israeli sovereignty. And here in this photo, you'll see all of Israel. Again, there's no mention. They erase the name of Israel, and they claim that all of what we would call Israel today is simply Palestine. And again, it's brainwashing of the youth. It's the hatred and the terror message. And as Golda Meir has spoken years and years ago, that there'll be no peace until the Arabs love their children more than seeing them sacrificed and killed and die. And again, the summer camps are nothing more than brainwashing, and until that changes, there will be no peace in the Middle East. And then just a couple more things, and we'll be done for this week. I'm happy to let you know that the squad struck out. Yeah, that's Ilan, Omar, AOC, etc. But the House voted last week 419 to 9, approving a resolution declaring that Israel is not racist and is not an apartheid state. And it also voted to condemn any forms of anti-Semitism. 419 to 9. That's a major strikeout for the squad. And then tomorrow, or as sun goes down tonight, it's Tisha B'Av. And I think it's important that you understand this date in the history of Israel and the circumstances and what's taking place today. Because everything from the beginning at Kadesh Barnea, when the spies came in with a bad report, okay, that date was the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av. And then as you go through history, the dramatic, detrimental, devastating events to Israel uncannily all seem to circle that date of the 9th of Av. The destruction of both temples. And it can go on and on. You can just Google the 9th of Av, and there's a list of horrific things that took place on that day. In fact, years ago, when Ariel Sharon, a hawk, by the way, was debating whether or not to give Gaza over to the Palestinians, his circle of influencers basically said, you need to wait at least a couple days because the day you wanted to do that is the 9th of Av. And he was wise to do that because look at what's transpired on that day. But we still look back at that unfortunate decision. And so David Freeman, the former U.S. ambassador, has been critical of Bibi in terms of the timing of the Israeli Knesset's vote on this contentious reasonableness standard bill, noting that the vote is taking place on the eve of the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av. And so his quote, giving the striking parallel between Israel's current internal rift and the infighting that's caused the destructions of the Second Temple 2,000 years ago, why would Israeli government proceed with the judicial reform bill on the eve of the 9th of Av? This is very bad timing. And then, as I mentioned, last minute thing that just came in from Amir, Behold Israel. I'll conclude with this, and this is something as a friend, when I hear Amir speak, my ears perk up. You know about him. Check him out, Behold Israel. But he just wrote on Telegram hours ago, what I'm about to write is serious and must be taken as such. Israel is experiencing a coup attempt led by former Prime Minister Ehud Barak and his gang of ex-generals. This is something that was in the making for a few years now, and the judicial reform was just the excuse. We now have videos of Zoom calls from over 2 years ago where they're already talking about this. The Israeli government and parliament in the next 48 hours will either show that our democracy is stronger than this, or maybe this is the end of it. While the internal political chaos intensifies, the enemies from the outside are preparing themselves for the right moment to attack. Israel is at its most dangerous situation since it was established in 1948. The next 3 days are crucial for Israel. Pray that the worst does not happen and we are attacked from several fronts at the same time. And then he's going to make mention of Tisha B'Av. No, we are in the last days on the Jewish calendar known as Between the Straits, a period of mourning and commemorating the destruction of the first and the second Jewish temples. So as I usually do at the end, I always exhort you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And again, let's take this seriously over the next few days. Well, with that, that's our report for this week. God bless you. We will have another YouTube video next week, and then for the next 2 weeks, it'll only be available as a PDF PowerPoint, but it will be coming from Jerusalem and the Galilee. So with that, God bless you and shalom.